I will say, Cormac, this is something that I've been aware of, but never fully aware of. So I don't know, from your point of view, when it comes to the concert on the 29th of March, the real goal here is just obviously to remind people that there is still an injustice here, even though it's been 50 years. That people might think this is all settled, the dust is settled, but there's still an injustice at the core of this.
Yeah. Well, with any miscarriage of justice, I mean, it not only affects the particular people involved, it affects their families. It is a domino effect. It has an effect on the families, it has an effect on society as a whole, and unless society deals with the many burning issues which remain to be dealt with and questions answered, you know, we can't move on as a society. I was 13 when my brother was wrongly arrested and accused and imprisoned and beaten in Garda custody. And this is all documented, etc., by human rights organisations who have petitioned the government for an inquiry into this 50-year-old case. So, I being a musician, I'm known as a whistle player also, I decided I would organise, direct, arrange, produce and fund this big undertaking, which is a concert in Vicar Street on Sunday the 29th of March, a week before Easter Sunday next year. And were it not for artists, I think we and many other campaigns would be lost. For example, Christy Moore back in 1983 wrote a song called The Wicklow Boy, based on Nicky Kelly when he was on hunger strike and in prison at the time. Nicky Kelly was then released, then he got a presidential pardon. My brother was also released by the court with his co-accused, I want to make that clear. So, totally innocent. 3 innocent people were wrongly accused and arrested and sent to prison for something they didn't do. But artists are a very important group in our society who help raise issues of importance and awareness. And I'm delighted to say that Damien Dempsey and the band Keela and John Spillane and Pauline Scanlon, Cullumackanumber, there are musicians will be participating in this concert that I've mentioned. Also poets, Theo Dorgan, Paula Meehan, wonderful poets, some of our best poets and musicians in the country. And then some of our best journalists, journalists who wrote books. Our own Greystone's Peter Murtagh, who co-wrote Blind Justice with Joe Joyce. Round Up the Usual Suspects, great title, also written by Jean Kerrigan and Derek Dunn, who no longer is with us. Patsy McGarry wrote also a book on Nicky Kelly, and Justine McCarthy from the Irish Times will also appear. So I have 4 journalists, 2 poets, a number of musicians, and Osgur and Nicky will also be there tonight.
I'm thinking back to 1976, 31st of March, the Cork to Dublin train is £200,000 is robbed. People are arrested, 40 people initially, then it breaks it down to 5 and 3 people are convicted. The fact that by May 1980 your brother and Mr. McNally are released, did that feel in your mind, well, this is the end of it? Were you shocked that this would continue, that there would not be? I know that the following month Nicky Kelly came home, he was in prison straight away, he had 4 years as well back in prison. It must have been kind of shocking to you that they're pardoned, they're basically acquitted of this because they were confessed under duress, and yet it still goes on that they're still chasing.
Yes, some people have described it as the biggest miscarriage of justice in the country. For example, Judge McCartney,
I know the human rights lawyer too, who dealt with the Guildford 4, he basically, Alistair, he basically said that this is very, very equivalent for him to the Birmingham 6 and the Guildford 4.
Yes.
That the same mistakes that are made in this case were in that case too.
Alistair Logan, OBE in England, the human rights lawyer for the Guildford 4 and for the Maguire 7, issued a statement that in his research that he found very many similarities between those cases and the Sallins case in terms of it happened in the 1970s, that innocent people went to court for something they didn't do, that they were beaten in police custody, and that the governments also used every endeavour in their power, every machinery in their power to prevent people from actually suing. So when my brother was released, he spent another 13 years in litigation trying to get compensation. And would you believe it, that there was a famous judgment called the Denning judgment, the Appalling Vista judgment, and Lord Denning, who issued that judgment against the Birmingham 6 and the Guildford 4 and Maguire 7, preventing them from suing for compensation, said that it would be such an appalling vista to think that innocent people would end up in prison and would would be beaten by police, and that if we actually believed that, then our society was basically at an end.
Yeah.
So that could not be, and therefore they were not able to sue. My brother and Nicky and Brian McNally were not able to sue for assault, which is absolutely ludicrous. So to this day, while they got some compensation, they never got compensation for their assault, which ended up in them being forced to sign statements that they did not write themselves.
So would the hope be that at this point you would imagine that everybody recognises the cruelty of what happened? What is the hope that will be done? I know an apology is due, but obviously the recognition that compensation should be due in a situation like this.
Yes, of course, it's not only about compensation, it's about...
Sorry, Otto!
It's okay.
Get back here, you half-wit. Sorry. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry. But yes,
it's not only about compensation, Paul.
Right, but no, I mean the apology, the recognition.
A state apology which has never been given, and it's about an inquiry, an impartial, independent inquiry held by the government. Whatever mechanics, the way what happened is for a negotiation discussion. But unless we learn the reasons why innocent people ended up in prison, it's a stain on our criminal justice system. As the late Supreme Court Judge Adrian Hardiman said that. We are hypocrites. We jumped up and down on the streets in support of the Birmingham 6 and Guildford 4.
Yeah.
But we never learned the lessons of the Sallins case. And that was remarks he issued in 2007. Pat McCartan, the judge who also was involved in the case, described it as the biggest miscarriage of justice in the country. Irish Council of Civil Liberties, Amnesty International, Fair Trials, the Pat Finucane Centre, they've all signed their names to a petition to the government to grant us an inquiry. The government is obliged under UN law to give an inquiry, and they still to this day refuse to give it. So I as a 62-year-old now, I was 13 at the time, I find it very hard to move on when the government continues to reject and deny our legitimate claims.
Now, do you think there is a reason that this will not be pressed ahead? You would think that nobody could really argue against the idea of an inquiry. Nobody could argue against the idea of an apology. Is it financial? Is it, I'm just trying to figure out why people wouldn't, in successive governments, recognise this.
Yes, I mean, every Minister for Justice since 1976 has refused to meet us.
Right.
Every single Minister for Justice.
Is it that complicated?
I think
is
it's
it that
political.
embarrassing?
I think it's political. I think it goes deep down to... It goes very deep. I mean, there were a group of Gardaí who were allowed to go into Garda stations to extract statements from people, innocent people, under duress, and they are protected. They are still alive, some of them. They're still on pensions, some of them. Look, we're a small country, Paul. Everyone knows somebody. We're all complicit in to a certain degree in all kinds of miscarriages of justice that go on in this country, and when you think of
so would you have hope? I don't know whether the family feel that the day will come, or is there does it feel like you're banging your head against?
Well, I hope so. I'm 62. Right. My brother Oscar's 75. My eldest brother is 77. My parents are dead, deceased. They won't live around to see an apology, a state apology. We live in hope. That's all I can say. I mean, from my point of view, I've moved on as much as I can. I was involved in a project called The Whistleblower, and I got state funding. I got funding from the Arts Council to go back into this, to deal with it through music. I recorded an album. I did a show. I did a documentary, RT documentary on one called The Whistleblower, award-winning documentary. This is to honour artists. Right. This is to acknowledge resilience, hope. That's it. And I urge you, if you can't even go to buy a ticket, because I'm funding this myself and it's costing me a fortune, and I'm not only saying that, it's all about me. I'm saying music. It'll be a fantastic concert to go to.
Right. Well, it's 29th of March 2026 at Vicar Street. We'll have open those gates. We'll have the link for tickets above, and we'll also have a link for further information. But I will say, I'm slightly, gobsmacked. I think it's 50 years, but I really do hope now that within the next few years you're going to see some sort of justice for this, because it seems bizarre.
Ojalá, as they say in Spanish.
There you go.
Ojalá.